France and Germany are finalizing the trade bazooka, a massive tariff package to isolate the U.S. economy if Trump attacks Greenland or Iran. The alliance is fractured. The U.S. is sailing to war alone. Is this the end of NATO or the start of World War III? We just dropped the full, uncensored breakdown on the channel. Check the related video below and subscribe for updates. You need to see this. January 2026 will go down in history not just as the start of Donald Trump's second year back in office, but as the moment the post-1945 world order finally snapped. We are witnessing a geopolitical earthquake. For decades, the phrase leader of the free world applied automatically to the President of the United States. Today, that title is being revoked. In the last 30 days alone, we have seen the U.S. military storm Venezuela and capture a foreign head of state. We have seen the president threaten to annex Greenland the hard way. And as of this morning, a massive U.S. naval armada is steaming toward the Persian Gulf with orders that have terrified the Pentagon and paralyzed Brussels. But the real story isn't the aggression, it's the silence from America's allies. For the first time in history, as Washington beats the drums of war, the rest of the world isn't marching in step. They are turning their backs. They are preparing for a world without America. This is the full story of the January crisis of 2026. To understand why world leaders are ghosting the White House today, we have to look at what happened 3 weeks ago. On January 3rd, 2026, the world woke up to footage that looked like a Hollywood movie, but the consequences were very real. U.S. Special Forces, acting on direct orders from the Oval Office, launched a lightning raid on Caracas. Their target, the presidential palace. Their prize, Nicolas Maduro. Reports confirm Maduro was extracted and is now facing narco-terrorism charges in the U.S. Trump immediately installed an interim government and announced the U.S. would run Venezuela remotely to secure oil assets, specifically the transfer of 50 million barrels of crude to U.S. reserves. While Trump's base cheered the move as a show of strength, the diplomatic fallout was radioactive. This wasn't just a regime change. It was a unilateral military intervention in South America without UN approval or congressional oversight. Latin American leaders, many of whom had drifted toward China in recent years, panicked. Brazil and Colombia immediately recalled their ambassadors. But the shockwave hit hardest in Europe. If the U.S. could simply kidnap a head of state to secure oil reserves, what stopped them from doing the same elsewhere? That fear didn't stay hypothetical for long, because Trump's eyes turned north. If Venezuela was the spark, Greenland was the fuel. We all remember 2019 when Trump first floated the idea of buying Greenland. We laughed. Denmark laughed. But in January 2026, nobody is laughing. On January 15th, following the success in Venezuela, President Trump explicitly stated that acquiring Greenland was a national security necessity to compete with China in the Arctic. When Denmark refused to discuss a sale, the rhetoric shifted darker. Trump threatened to take the territory the hard way and floated a 100% tariff on all EU goods if Denmark didn't come to the table. This was the breaking point for NATO. Denmark is a NATO founding member. An attack on Denmark is technically an attack on the U.S. itself under Article 5. The absurdity of the situation cannot be overstated. The U.S. president threatened a fellow NATO member with economic and potentially military coercion. The reaction from Europe was swift and cold. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte was reportedly paralyzed by the threat. But behind closed doors, the European Union stopped playing nice. According to leaked memos from Brussels, the EU Commission has finalized a retaliatory package known as the trade bazooka. This isn't just sanctions, it's an economic death sentence targeting U.S. tech giants, bourbon, and aviation. The message from French President Emmanuel Macron was clear: Europe will not be bullied. Strategic autonomy is no longer a goal, it is a survival mechanism. The tension culminated last week at the World Economic Forum in Davos. Usually, a U.S. president's speech is the main event. This year, it was a crime scene. President Trump took the stage to deliver a speech on unvarnished power. He told the assembled global elite that the rules-based international order was a scam designed to rip off America. He bragged about the Venezuela capture. He doubled down on the Greenland threats. But look at the audience. Reports from the ground confirm that as Trump began attacking the European Central Bank and threatening the Federal Reserve's independence, dozens of diplomats simply stood up and left. It wasn't a protest, it was an abandonment. China's delegation watched with glee. They didn't need to say a word. The US president was doing their work for them, dismantling the Western alliance from the inside out. Which brings us to right now, today, January 29th, 2026. While Europe builds economic walls, the Middle East is on a knife edge. Emboldened by the Venezuela operation, the Trump administration has issued a final ultimatum to Iran. Make a deal on nuclear disarmament or face regime change. This isn't bluster. Satellite imagery confirms a U.S. carrier strike group, a massive armada in Trump's own words, is currently moving into attack positions in the Persian Gulf. Trump posted on Truth Social, "We are locked and loaded. Help is on the way for the Iranian people." In 2020, when the U.S. killed Qasem Soleimani, allies urged restraint. In 2026, the phone lines are dead. The UK, usually America's staunchest ally, has signaled it will not join any preemptive strike on Iran. The European powers have refused to endorse the ultimatum. They are terrified that a war with Iran, combined with the chaos in Venezuela and the trade war with Europe, will collapse the global economy. Iran has responded by threatening to close the Strait of Hormuz and strike U.S. assets across the region. They know Trump is serious. They saw what happened to Maduro. So where does this leave us? We are looking at a scenario that was unthinkable 5 years ago. The United States is engaging in active military aggression on two fronts, Venezuela aftermath and impending Iran strikes, while simultaneously threatening its oldest allies, Denmark, NATO, with annexation and trade wars. The world leaders haven't just turned their backs out of spite, they've done it out of necessity. They view the current U.S. administration as the single biggest source of volatility in the global system. The EU is pivoting to strategic autonomy, effectively declaring independence from U.S. security guarantees. Latin America is solidifying trade ties with China to protect against further U.S. interventions. NATO is technically alive, but spiritually dead. If the U.S. strikes Iran, they will likely do so alone. The risk of war is imminent, but unlike Iraq, unlike Afghanistan, this time there is no coalition of the willing. There is only America first, and the rest of the world is getting ready to watch America go it alone. The armada is sailing. The deadlines are expiring. The tariffs are pending. Donald Trump promised to disrupt the status quo. In January 2026, he has succeeded beyond anyone's imagination. The question is no longer if war will happen. The question is, when the dust settles, will America have any friends left to help pick up the pieces? We are monitoring the Persian Gulf hour by hour. If that order is given, we will be live. If you want to stay ahead of the mainstream media on this crisis, hit that subscribe button. We are tracking the Armada's movements and the EU's trade retaliation in real time. This is history in the making. Don't blink.